The research vessel Eternal Curiosity drifted silently at the edge of the Sol system, its advanced cloaking systems rendering it invisible to Earth's primitive detection technology. Chief Researcher Zix-427 stood in the observation dome, all four of his crystalline sensory stalks oriented toward the blue-green planet that had become the subject of intense scientific debate across the Galactic Federation. "Impossible," he whispered, his translator converting the harmonic vibrations of his crystalline form into standard galactic basic. "By every measure we possess, this planet should be uninhabitable." First Assistant Valkyra moved her serpentine form closer to the display, her scales shifting colors with intense curiosity. "Yet there they are, Chief Researcher, not just surviving, but building a civilization." The holographic displays surrounding them showed various scenes from the planet's surface. Humans walked casually through environments that would kill most spacefaring species in minutes. They built cities in places where the atmospheric pressure should have crushed them, thrived in temperature variations that would shatter most known forms of life, and somehow survived constant exposure to high levels of solar radiation. "Their bone density alone defies our understanding," Valkyra continued, bringing up biological scans. "They evolved on a world with gravity that should have made complex life impossible. Instead, they turned it into an advantage. Look at their skeletal structure. It's like living steel." Zix-427 shifted his crystalline mass in acknowledgement. The research team had spent 3 cycles observing Earth, and each new discovery challenged another fundamental assumption about life in the galaxy. Humans didn't just survive on their death world. They seemed almost unaware of how extraordinary their environment was. A sudden alert pulled their attention to the main sensor array. Junior Researcher Tech-9, a being of pure energy contained within a specialized field generator, pulsed with alarm. "Chief Researcher, our long-range sensors are detecting a massive solar disturbance. The readings, they're beyond anything in our historical database." The observation dome filled with new data streams as the ship's quantum computers analyzed the approaching phenomenon. What they revealed caused even Zix-427's crystalline form to vibrate with concern. A solar storm of unprecedented magnitude was building, and its trajectory aimed directly at Earth. "Their magnetic field won't be able to handle this," Valkyra said, her scales turning a deep blue of concern. "Their technology is too primitive to detect it in time, let alone protect against it. What are their chances of survival?" Zix-427 asked, though he already suspected the answer. Tech-9's energy form flickered as he processed the calculations, without advanced warning and protection. "The storm will devastate their infrastructure. Global electronics failure, massive radiation exposure, atmospheric degradation. By our models, their civilization would be set back centuries, if it survives at all." Zix-427 found himself facing the same ethical dilemma that had challenged researchers since the discovery of pre-FTL species. Their directive was clear: observe, but never interfere. These humans, remarkable as they were, had to face their evolutionary challenges without outside help. That was the way of things. The strong survived, and the strong thrived. But as he watched the scenes of human life playing out below, something felt different. These creatures had already defeated odds that the Galactic Federation had deemed impossible. They had evolved on a world that violated nearly every principle of xenobiology, yet here they were, reaching for the stars. "Sir," Valkyra interrupted his thoughts, "they've detected something. Their primitive solar observation systems just registered the first signs of the storm." The displays shifted to show various human scientific facilities around the globe. Despite their limited technology, they had already begun analyzing the threat. Their reactions defied expectations once again. Instead of panic, they showed focused determination. "Remarkable," Tech-9 pulsed. "They've had spacefaring capability for less than a century, yet they're already coordinating a global response. Their communication networks are alive with data sharing." Zix-427 watched as humans around the world mobilized with surprising speed. Scientific institutions shared data freely, governments began emergency preparations, and space agencies worldwide initiated protocols that showed impressive foresight for such a young species. They don't yet understand the full magnitude of what's coming, Valkyrie observed, but look at how they're responding to even the possibility of a threat. Most species at this stage of development would be descending into chaos. The research team continued their observation as humanity began what they couldn't know would be their greatest test. As the massive solar storm approached their world, these remarkable Deathworlders were about to show the galaxy why they had not just survived, but thrived in conditions that should have been impossible. Zix-427's crystalline form resonated with an emotion he had never experienced before, anticipation mixed with hope. "Continue full spectrum monitoring," he ordered. "I want every detail recorded. We're about to witness either the end of a remarkable species or something that will change our understanding of life itself." The following 48 hours aboard the Eternal Curiosity redefined everything the research team thought they knew about pre-FTL civilizations. Valkyrie hadn't left her observation post since the humans detected the first signs of the approaching solar storm, her scales flickering between shades of amazement and disbelief. "They're repurposing their entire power grid," she reported, tracking multiple data streams simultaneously. "Look at how they're using their primitive nuclear facilities. They're deliberately creating electromagnetic shields by overloading their power stations in calculated patterns." Tech-9's energy form pulsed with surprise as new data flowed through the ship's sensors. "These humans are innovating faster than our predictive models can process. They're not just adapting existing technology, they're creating entirely new solutions under pressure." Chief Researcher Zix-427 focused his sensory stalks on the main display, watching as humans around the world demonstrated why they had mastered their death world. In what they called Russia, engineers worked in temperatures far below freezing, converting old military installations into massive electromagnetic pulse generators. In the scorching deserts of Australia, teams labored through heat that would kill most species, building arrays of experimental radiation deflectors. "Their bodies should be failing," Valkyrie noted, bringing up biological scans. "The conditions they're working in, the stress, the temperature extremes, the radiation exposure. It's all far beyond what our xenobiologists classified as survivable. Yet they persist." The most remarkable developments were happening in orbit. Humanity's primitive space stations had become hubs of desperate innovation. The aliens watched as astronauts performed spacewalks that violated every safety protocol in the Federation's database, manually modifying satellites to create a makeshift planetary defense network. "They're using their orbital debris as a shield," Tech-9 pulsed excitedly. "Look at how they're repositioning their satellites and space junk to create a dispersal pattern for the solar radiation. The mathematics behind it. It's beautiful in its brutal simplicity." A new alert drew their attention to the planet's polar regions. Humanity had discovered that the approaching solar storm would be partially attracted to Earth's magnetic poles, so they were attempting something unprecedented. Teams of engineers were deploying what they called magnetic redirectors, trying to temporarily alter the behavior of their planet's magnetic field. "This violates 17 different laws of physics," Tech-9 declared, his energy form flickering rapidly. "Their calculations are crude. Their understanding of magnetic fields is primitive, but somehow it's working. They're actually managing to influence their planet's magnetosphere using technology that shouldn't be capable of such feats." Zix-427's crystalline form vibrated with scientific excitement as he processed the implications. "They're not just fighting against their environment," he observed. "They're using their planet's harsh conditions as a weapon against the solar storm. The very forces that should make their world uninhabitable, they're turning them into tools for survival." The displays showed scenes of global cooperation that defied everything they knew about pre-FTL species. Nations that their historical data showed had been enemies mere days ago were now sharing resources and technology without hesitation. Scientists worldwide collaborated in real time, building upon each other's discoveries with remarkable speed. Their internet, Valkyra said, her scales shifting to a deep purple of admiration. It's become a singular mind. They're using their primitive global network to coordinate efforts across their entire planet. The speed of their information sharing, the way they're building on each other's ideas, they're achieving in hours what should take years of research and development. A particularly stunning display of human ingenuity drew their attention to the planet's oceans. Submarines, military vessels that normally operated in strict secrecy, were surfacing around the world, offering their advanced electromagnetic shielding technology to the global effort. Engineers were already adapting this classified technology for use in civilian protection systems. They're not just sharing their secrets, Tech9 noted, they're improving them together. Each nation's unique approach to electromagnetic shielding is being combined and enhanced by the others. They're creating entirely new technologies, merging their different methodologies. As the research team watched, humanity's response to the crisis continued to evolve in ways that challenged their understanding of what was possible. These Deathworlders weren't just fighting for survival. They were rewriting the rules of what their primitive technology could achieve. Send all of this to the Federation's Science Council, Zix-427 ordered, his crystalline form resonating with an unfamiliar emotion, respect. They need to see how these humans are achieving the impossible. This isn't just about survival anymore. We're watching the emergence of something unprecedented in galactic history. The solar storm was now less than 24 hours from impact, and humanity was about to face its greatest test. But as the alien observers watched these remarkable Deathworlders prepare for the coming catastrophe, none of them could shake the feeling that they were witnessing the birth of a species that would one day reshape the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. The solar storm hit Earth's outer atmosphere with a force that made even the Eternal Curiosity's advanced shields flicker. From their hidden vantage point, the alien research team watched as humanity faced a moment that would determine not just their survival, but their place in galactic history. Their magnetic redistribution network is holding, Tech9 pulsed, his energy form brightening with surprise. It shouldn't be possible with their level of technology, but they're actually managing to redirect significant portions of the solar radiation. Valkyra's scales shifted to a deep crimson of concern as she monitored the surface. The atmospheric interference is overwhelming their communication systems. But look, they prepared for this. They're switching to something they call shortwave radio technology. It's practically ancient, but it's allowing them to maintain global coordination. The display showed scenes that defied every known law of survival. In space, astronauts continued their desperate work despite radiation levels that should have been instantly fatal. On the ground, emergency teams operated in conditions that violated basic physics. The very air was becoming ionized, yet humans pushed through it as if it were merely an inconvenience. Their bodies, Chief Researcher Zix-427 observed, his crystalline form vibrating with scientific fascination. The radiation exposure alone should be causing massive cellular breakdown, but they're adapting. Their DNA is showing repair patterns we've never seen before. The storm's secondary effects began to manifest. Massive electrical discharges swept across continents, and the planet's magnetic field fluctuated wildly. But humanity had prepared for this too. Their hastily constructed electromagnetic shields, built from repurposed power stations and military equipment, created safe zones around major population centers. Their improvisational capabilities are extraordinary, Tech9 noted, processing streams of data. They're using the electrical discharges themselves as power sources. Those lightning rods they installed, they're not just protective measures. They're channeling the energy back into their shield network. A particular scene from North America caught their attention. A major shield generator had failed, threatening millions of humans in a densely populated region. The response that followed stunned even the seasoned alien observers. They're running directly into the affected zone, Valkyra reported, her scales paling to white with shock. These emergency workers, They're knowingly exposing themselves to lethal conditions to repair the generator. Their survival instincts should be forcing them to flee, but they're moving toward the danger. Zix-427 focused his sensory stalks on the biological readings of these humans. Their bodies are producing unprecedented levels of stress hormones, yet their cognitive functions remain clear. They're not just pushing through fear. They're using it to enhance their performance. The very chemistry that should be paralyzing them is making them more effective. The research team watched as the humans executed their repair operation with remarkable precision. Teams worked in rotating shifts of just a few minutes, each person absorbing nearly lethal doses of radiation before being pulled back. They solved complex engineering problems while their bodies were under extreme stress, making calculations and adjustments that should have been impossible in such conditions. Their problem-solving methodology defies all known models, Tech9 pulsed. They're not just dealing with the crisis, they're learning from it in real time. Look at how they're modifying their shields based on the storm's behavior. They're turning a survival situation into a scientific opportunity. Around the world, similar scenes played out as humanity fought against forces that should have annihilated them. In orbit, their makeshift debris shield was proving more effective than any theoretical model had predicted. The very chaos of their random satellite network created unpredictable patterns that dispersed the solar radiation in ways that even the ship's quantum computers struggled to analyze. They're doing something unprecedented with their planetary power grid, Valkyra announced, her scales shifting through patterns never before seen in her species. They're using the storm's electromagnetic effects to create a coherent global network. The power fluctuations that should be destroying their infrastructure, they're surfing them like waves. Zix-427 expanded the display, his crystalline form resonating with growing excitement. Humanity had turned their entire planet into a dynamic defense system. Power grids pulsed in carefully orchestrated patterns, radiation shields adapted and shifted, and millions of humans worked together in a synchronized dance of survival that violated dozens of supposedly immutable laws of physics and biology. Send an emergency update to the Science Council, he ordered. Tell them. He paused, searching for words to describe what they were witnessing. Tell them we're observing the emergence of something new. These humans, they're not just surviving their death world anymore. They're mastering forces that we thought were beyond control. As the peak of the solar storm approached, the alien observers realized they were no longer simply studying a primitive species. They were watching the birth of a civilization that would one day challenge everything the galaxy thought it knew about the limits of possibility. The Federation's Science Council had never convened an emergency session for a pre-FTL species before. Yet here they were, the galaxy's most brilliant minds, gathered in a massive quantum-linked conference as the Eternal Curiosity's data streams showed humanity doing the impossible. These readings cannot be accurate, declared Council Member Xith, their gaseous form swirling with agitation. No species could survive such conditions, let alone continue to function at high cognitive levels. Your instruments must be malfunctioning. Chief Researcher Zix-427's holographic projection stood firm before the council, his crystalline form resonating with conviction. Every measurement has been verified through multiple systems. The humans aren't just surviving. They're innovating in conditions that violate our fundamental understanding of biology. The display showed scenes from Earth's southern hemisphere, where the solar storm had triggered massive atmospheric disruptions. Humans worked through hurricane-force winds and electromagnetic interference that should have shut down any technological device. Yet they had adapted, using the very turbulence of their environment to power emergency systems. Observe their neural patterns, Valkyra added, her serpentine form joining the presentation. Under stress levels that should render them unconscious, their problem-solving capabilities actually increase. They're not just pushing through the impossible. They're thriving in it. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some members argued that such adaptation had to be a fluke, a temporary phenomenon that would soon reach its limits. Others insisted that helping the humans survive would contaminate valuable research data about how pre-FTL species handle extinction-level events. "You don't understand," Tech9 pulsed, his energy form projecting into the chamber. "They've already exceeded every model we had for pre-FTL development. Look at how they've modified their planet's electromagnetic field. They're manipulating forces that we thought required at least another 1,000 years of scientific advancement to even detect." Back on Earth, humanity continued to defy expectations. The displays showed teams of scientists working in radiation-flooded laboratories, their bodies somehow adapting to conditions that should have killed them instantly. They made breakthroughs in electromagnetic field theory, while their very atoms were being bombarded by solar radiation. "Their neural plasticity is off the charts," Valkyra reported, bringing up new biological scans. "They're not just working despite the radiation. Their brains are forming new neural pathways, adapting to process information in ways we've never seen before. They're literally evolving in real time." A senior council member, a being of pure thought encoded in quantum crystals, spoke for the first time. "What you're suggesting is more than just remarkable adaptation. You're implying that these humans are fundamentally different from every other species we've encountered." "Exactly," Zix-427 responded, his crystalline form pulsing with intensity. "Look at their history. They didn't just survive on a world that should have killed them. They turned every deadly aspect of their environment into an advantage. High gravity gave them dense bones and strong muscles. Extreme temperature variations made them incredibly adaptable. Constant exposure to radiation gave them robust DNA repair mechanisms." The displays showed more scenes from around the planet. Humans had started using their damaged satellite network in ways that defied conventional physics, creating a complex web of electromagnetic interactions that helped shield their planet. They worked in conditions that would drive most species insane, maintaining clear thought and even humor in the face of what should have been overwhelming stress. "They're changing everything we thought we knew about survival," Valkyra added, her scales shifting through patterns of amazement. "Their response to this crisis isn't just about enduring. It's about transformation. They're turning their entire planet into a living laboratory, learning and adapting at speeds we thought impossible." The council chamber fell silent as they processed the implications. These humans, these Deathworlders, weren't just another primitive species struggling toward the stars. They were something entirely new, a form of life that thrived on challenges that would destroy most civilizations. "There's more," Tech9 pulsed, bringing up new data streams. "They're not just solving their current crisis. Every innovation, every adaptation they're making, they're documenting everything, preparing to share their knowledge with future generations. They're treating this extinction-level event as a learning opportunity." The debate in the council chamber shifted. The question was no longer whether humanity would survive, but what their emergence would mean for the galaxy. These creatures, evolved in conditions that violated every principle of survivable life, were rewriting the rules of what was possible. "We need to reconsider our entire approach to pre-FTL species," Zix-427 declared. "These humans, they're not just going to join the galactic community someday. They're going to revolutionize it. Every problem we thought unsolvable, every limit we thought unchangeable, they'll challenge them all." As if to emphasize his point, new data poured in from Earth. The humans had just achieved something that made even the most skeptical council members pause in astonishment. They had found a way to use their planet's magnetic field as a form of propulsion, launching emergency satellites using nothing but the electromagnetic chaos of the solar storm itself. One standard galactic year after the Great Solar Storm, the Eternal Curiosity maintained its vigilant watch over Earth. The planet's scars were still visible from orbit. Vast networks of electromagnetic arrays, modified power grids, and the remnants of their improvised orbital shield. But these weren't marks of devastation. They were monuments to survival. They didn't just endure, Valkyra observed, her scales shimmering with a new color that her species had developed just to express the wonder of watching humanity. They transformed. Look at how they've integrated every emergency measure into their civilization's foundation. The displays showed a planet change, not by catastrophe, but by choice. Humans had taken their desperate innovations and refined them into new technologies. Their hastily constructed electromagnetic shields had evolved into a global protection network. Their primitive power grid had been rebuilt into something that even Federation engineers were struggling to understand. Their scientific development has accelerated beyond all projected models. Tech-9 pulsed, his energy form expanding with excitement. They've achieved in 1 year what should have taken centuries. The very concepts they created under pressure. They're building entire new fields of physics around them. Chief researcher Zix-427 stood in the observation dome, all 4 of his sensory stalks focused on the planet that had changed the galaxy's understanding of life itself. The Federation's Science Council had been in nearly continuous session since the crisis, rewriting fundamental theories about evolution, adaptation, and the very nature of intelligence. The Council's latest directive, he announced, his crystalline form resonating with pride. They've created an entirely new classification for Earth. It's no longer just a death world. It's being designated as a crucible world, a planet that doesn't just challenge life, but forges it into something stronger. The research team watched as humanity continued to defy expectations. They hadn't retreated from the harshness of their world after the storm. Instead, they pushed further, establishing bases in their world's most extreme environments. They built cities in their ocean depths, research stations in their Arctic wastes, and launched more missions into the radiation-filled space around their planet. Their global cooperation hasn't faltered either, Valkyra noted, bringing up social pattern analyses. The barriers between nations that we thought were fundamental to pre-FTL species, they're dissolving, not through force or fear, but through shared purpose. The displays showed scenes from across Earth. Former military installations had been converted into research centers. Nations that were once enemies now operated joint scientific missions. The humans had taken the unity forced upon them by crisis and turned it into a choice. Their data-sharing networks have evolved into something unprecedented, Tech-9 reported. They're not just cooperating on crisis response anymore. They're pooling their knowledge and resources for something bigger. Look at their new space programs. Humanity's reach was extending beyond their planet faster than anyone had predicted. They had taken the lessons learned from manipulating electromagnetic fields during the storm and applied them to spacecraft propulsion. Their primitive rockets were being replaced by drives that utilized principles the Federation was only beginning to understand. The Council's predictions have been revised again, Zix-427 announced, bringing up the latest analysis. At their current rate of development, they'll achieve FTL capability within decades, not centuries. And when they do, he left the sentence unfinished, but every member of the research team understood the implications. These humans, these incredible Deathworlders, wouldn't just join the galactic community. They would revolutionize it. Every problem the Federation thought unsolvable, every barrier they believed absolute, would be challenged by a species that had turned impossibility into opportunity. New directive from the Council, Valkyra announced, her scales shifting to show both excitement and concern. They're establishing a permanent observation post in this system, and they're fast-tracking protocols for first contact with pre-FTL species. The humans have changed everything. The displays showed more scenes from the surface. Children in schools learning physics that broke Federation models, engineers casually working in conditions that would kill most species, scientists exploring concepts that shouldn't have been discoverable for centuries. They're not just advancing technologically, Tech-9 observed. Their entire way of thinking has evolved. They approach problems with a perspective that's unique in the galaxy. Where we see absolute limits, they see challenges to overcome. Zix-427's crystalline form resonated with an emotion that had no name in any Federation language, a mixture of pride, excitement, and something like fear, but positive. They had come to study what they thought was a primitive species fighting for survival on a death world. Instead, they had witnessed the emergence of something unprecedented. A civilization born in the harshest conditions imaginable, shaped by constant challenge into something extraordinary. Begin preparation of the final report, he ordered, though he knew no report could fully capture what they had witnessed. The galaxy needs to understand what's coming. These humans, they're going to change everything, and we need to be ready. As the Eternal Curiosity continued its watch over Earth, its crew knew they were witnessing more than just the rise of a new spacefaring species. They were seeing the birth of a civilization that would one day reshape the very definition of possible. The Deathworlders had not just survived their trial by fire. They had emerged from it stronger, smarter, and more remarkable than anyone could have imagined. The galaxy would never be the same.